So, after singing the praises of a game that, has some features that a lot of people will probably enjoy, especially games journalists, we have some disturbing reports coming out of the new Dragon Age game, The Veilguard. And I will say this, you may want to keep your kids away from it. What am I talking about? Well, we'll let you know here on That Game Place. Hi, folks, it's me, CC, Culture Casino, and of course, my friend, my guest, and, well, the master of everything wrestling and Tooneytown television host, our friend Marvin the Movie Monster. How are you doing, Marvin?
Oh, I'm doing all right, Culture. We're about to trash one of my all-time favorite game franchises. So, you know what? My heart's a little bit heavy.
I'm sorry, Marvin, but it's not me. It's not me. I just remember, it wasn't me.
I know you didn't do it.
Yeah, so. Just for all purposes of this game, I'm Shaggy. It wasn't me. Speaking of which, let's jump into it. We've got a story coming out of That Park Place. That's right. A new report regarding Dragon Age The Veilguard implies that the game is, a little oriented around adult activity. And I'm saying that way very specifically to be friendly to the logarithm. And look, John, he writes some great stories. Let's check this one out. I'm worried.
I am too.
So, a new report obviously implies that the upcoming Bioware game is adult-oriented. And Game Informer's Wesley LeBlanc reported that during a playtest of the game's character creator, he was able to adjust a female character's chest size while viewing her without clothing on.
Oh boy.
LeBlanc reported we were customizing a feminine rook. Not sure what a rook is. And while adjusting body options, our rook's shirt disappeared to let us customize things like chest size. Now, from there, LeBlanc reported that the game's game director, a man who pretends to be something that he's not, and calls himself something different, likely knowing full well that not wearing clothing in that screen in the character creator means that there is going to be more of that elsewhere in the game, like the Veilguard romances. Now, if you're not familiar with Bioware games, Marvin, you want to tell them what you're able to do in most Bioware games?
I mean, look, in most Bioware games, you have the option to romance whoever it is that you want in your party or elsewhere. And typically, those culminate in a scene of romantic entanglements, shall we say. And with each game, I feel like they've kind of pushed the envelope a little further with it. Especially with each Mass Effect, they got like more graphic as time went on. But if we're getting like straight, like this would have to then have an M for mature rating then, right?
I would suspect so. And I think that a lot of these AAA titles are not shy about that particular rating. Look, you can't blame them. I mean, the best-selling game for a decade was GTA 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, you think, well, there's a lot of suggestion there, but not quite to the extreme of things like Cyberpunk 2077, which just came out from CD Projekt Red just a few years ago. You've had some even more suggestive things in games like the last good Saints Row, and there's always been some element of suggested activity between people and some of the other titles like Red Dead Redemption 2. But it sounds like we're getting more extreme, and I think the recent Baldur's Gate game may be an indication of things to come. And whether or not that's good or not is, obviously up to whoever's playing the game. But I'll say this, you may want to keep your kids away from certain parts of this. So as to whether players will be exposed to genitalia, LeBlanc detailed, I'm told that something Bioware wants to let fans discover for themselves in the game.
God forbid we make informed consumers, right?
Yeah, you don't want to let them know in advance that there's going to be naked time in this. No, they want to surprise it so that if you hand it to your kid and you're like, oh, so far it's okay, and then they get deeper in the game and it's there, they're going to see something you didn't expect. So according to Bush, this is a mature RPG. So it's aimed at adults. I don't know how else you can look at it, right?
Well, you know what? I think most games now are like outside of Nintendo are being aimed at adults because we're starting to see a gaming industry where adults are the primary market. We're no longer marketing mostly to kids because I don't think kids are really playing console games anymore outside of handheld stuff like the Switch or playing on their phones or playing Fortnite or something like that because or Minecraft. The AAA titles I think have to be aimed at adults at this point.
Well, maybe so because of the cost, the price point. I think you're right. I think $70 is a lot to ask of a consumer, and I'm feeling like the next batch of AAAs are going to be $70 or more,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I think having the idea that there would be any kind of spicy interaction scenes, as is described here from IGN, they're going to be basically including, adult stuff. And there are going to be some people that are going to be quite surprised when they walk into their kids' room and they see
Right.
this on the screen.
No, like I remember when I was in high school, or even before high school, when we were playing first couple God of War games, and it was just like you're praying that your parents don't walk in the room while you're playing God of War because it was all over the place there too, and you weren't expecting it at that time.
Yeah, I mean look, it's a sign of the times. Obviously, they're always trying to push the envelope. They're always trying to be a little more progressive. And to be fair, it's no holds barred anymore when it comes to that. Now, for adult persons, totally fine. I mean, it's part of the escapism. It's part of the interest, the salaciousness, the intrigue, whatever fancy adjectives you want to throw at it. And I get it, but I don't know necessarily that a lot of parents are prepared for this. Even if it gets an M for mature, I don't know that they're going to look at the first little bit of the
Yeah.
game and be like, this is fine. Although it sounds like right up front in the character creator, maybe you would catch a clue. Look, according to this Boosh person, um, their past experiences or partners, they'll reference them and indeed who they'll become romantic with. So apparently he's going to keep track of who you interact with in those ways, which is
Right.
also kind of creepy. I'm sorry, but it's true. He
Well, and if
continued.
if
Yeah, go
Mass
ahead.
Effect 2 is anything to go by, you'll be able to have much more. You'll be able to go through your whole party at some point.
Yeah. Well, Mass Effect 3 was no better, Marvin. I'm just saying.
That's very
Anyway.
true.
Yeah,
Hey,
well, he could.
I stayed true. I stayed true to Liara Tassoni from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 3. All right? I never strayed.
I think most people picked her from the very beginning too, even though Miranda was intriguing.
Look, Liara was blue and
Yeah.
and very beautiful, and she was everyone's Captain Kirk fantasy come to life.
Indeed. Well, yeah, I mean, Captain Kirk, Commander Shepard. Anyway, so for instance, according to Boosh, we saw Harding. I might be playing a straight male character flirting with her, but I chose not to pursue a romance. She might get together with Tosh. So my perception, my identity, has no bearing on their identities. And that comes through really strongly. So, in other words, it's catch as catch can, even for the NPCs. Wow.
Right.
That's crazy.
The only time I remember anything like that is Mass Effect 3 walking in on Garrus and Tali in an embrace.
I never saw that, but okay.
Oh yeah, and it happens every single time. I love it too because I really liked them together.
For whatever that's fantastic. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are so different and she has to be completely protected the entire time.
Yes.
She can't do anything, basically, because
Yeah.
she'll die. Anyway, it's not until the later parts of the game where you really commit to romance and it gets pretty spicy. So at least, you're hiding it from the parents for a while to a certain extent. They then confirmed that the game features interactive scenes. IGN's Alex Stedman wrote, "Of course, Dragon Age The Veilguard is a Bioware game, and games from the studio, specifically those in the Mass Effect and Dragon Age series, are known to have some fairly explicit adult scenes." Bush confirms that The Veilguard will be no different, particularly towards the end of the game. And noted, of course, we are an M-rated game.
Right. Like the fact that those scenes exist don't surprise me at all. I'd be more surprised if they didn't because, like I said, it's a Bioware game, it's a Dragon Age game. There's precedent for what we're seeing here.
Yeah. But here's the question, Marvin. I think this is a good way to wrap up this by asking you,
Sure.
is this the direction that video games need to go in order to have more buy-in from players? Or can they not necessarily get as elaborately detailed and still be successful? Does the mature rating need to apply to physical interaction between characters? Or can it just be about the violence and that type of thing? What do you think?
I like to think the best of people sometimes, which I know is unbelievably naive of me because I get let down constantly. But I gotta think that there's nobody out there who's like, oh my goodness, I have to go buy this Bioware game specifically for this one feature. Like, if that is really like the truth of your life, then that's a little sad. I don't think it's needed in these games going forward, but I don't think I guess as long as like kids aren't allowed to buy it, I don't have a problem with it because look, I'm never gonna tell a consenting adult what they should or shouldn't do with their time as long as it's a legal thing that can happen. So I don't have a problem with it. I think you probably will see more of it, especially as the gaming industry moves away from kids and more toward, adults. So yeah, I think this is not the last we've seen of this, I don't think.
I think you're right, unfortunately. But hey, we're going to ask you what you think. Do you think that this is something that we're just going to have to get used to? Do you think that perhaps we're going to see more and more of this, as Marvin has suggested? Or perhaps you think we may have reached the point at which we should probably just stop supporting stuff like this? I don't know. Decent chance I'm going to try to play this game so I can review it and talk about it intelligently here on That Game Place. But let us know what you think down in the comments section below. As always, game on.